Live from Salem Stadium in Salem, Virginia, this is Frank Rossi with Kevin Neas and Adam Turner for the exclusive video pregame show for Stag Bowl 44 here in Salem. Look around us, folks. This is an unusual circumstance for us. We are on the field level right now for this pregame show. First for us, we want to thank John Saunders and his entire crew for helping us get to this position. Our producers, Dave McHugh and Will, also helping us out here to get this view for you as things begin to warm up. Well, not literally, but in terms of the action behind us, you'll see some things behind us that you never get to see. Watch our normal pregame show. Gentlemen, for those that don't know, Kevin, a former quarterback, Thomas More many moons ago. What years?
95 to 99. First time in Salem, though. Really excited to be here.
What made you want to come for this one?
It's the dream of every D3 kid to play in the title game, and since I wasn't able to play, just wanted to experience the atmosphere here.
And Adam Turner, you're no stranger to Salem. You've been with with me. You know, the lips are starting not to move correctly as it is already here. We'll talk about weather in a minute, but you've been here sometimes with D3Football.com. You're the Around the Nation columnist, and also play for the Washington Lee Generals many moons ago.
That is true. My first Stag Bowl was 2005 when I was still a player, just after my senior year came down, and that was actually the first Mount Union-Wisconsin Whitewater matchup. So I'm very excited to see my fourth and fifth different teams playing here 11 years later.
This is my 10th time on the sidelines, and we'll be talking a little bit more about sideline duty a little bit later on, but 10 years for me, and same thing, 4 and 5. Teams number 4 and 5 for me as well, because during this entire time it's been either Whitewater, Mount Union, or St. Thomas. Guess what? We'll stop mentioning those names for the rest of this broadcast, not because we dislike them, but we have two teams we need to talk about, UW-Oshkosh and Mary Hardin Baylor. Let's talk a little bit to set the scene here of how these teams got here in the first place. Wisconsin-Oshkosh at 13-1 overall, 6-1 in their conference. Guys, you look at their schedule, and you see a John Carroll game right at the top of it, 33-14, which it's like bookends for them because of the rematches last week. And things were going along very well until a loss against Whitewater in their fifth game of the season, 17-14. From there, what do you think was the turning point for their season to get them back to a point to get to the playoffs first off and then to Salem?
I'll go first. It's interesting that we don't have a Pool A automatic bid team here tonight. We have Mary Hardin Baylor, whose conference the ASC doesn't have an automatic bid yet, so they're the Pool B entrant. And then we have Oshkosh, who had a fight. They've been in playoff mode since that loss to Whitewater back in October. So they've really been, they have to win each week. And they got in with an at-large Pool C bid. I think the turning point for them, so they lost 17-14 to Whitewater. Whitewater obviously was highly ranked at the time. It was a good, hard-fought game. I think they earned a lot of respect. They didn't drop in the polls. I think some voters even moved them up after that performance there. The next week they went on the road to Stevens Point, and they won 13-3. Not the most inspiring. You could kind of tell something, the Whitewater effect affected them the next week when they had to go on the road again. So I think the turning point for them was really the following week against Stevens Point. They had to really, or against Platteville after the Stevens Point win, where they really had to prove something. Platteville also made the playoff field, but at the time that game was played, that was almost a do-or-die scenario for both teams. So I think what Oshkosh showed that day and, bouncing back after two hard-fought road games to defeat Platteville really was a turning point in their season and showed them, okay, our backs are against the wall. Here's how we have to perform with our backs against the wall from this day forward, and that's what they've done week in and week out, going on the road and beating St. Thomas in the playoffs, and then the hard-fought win last week against John Carroll.
And I really feel like Wisconsin-Oshkosh needed to just survive the season. They were expected to make the playoffs, so the turning point for me was after they survived the season last week when they came out of the locker room tied at 0 with John Carroll and went 7 plays down the field running the Wildcat and scoring a touchdown. They scored 10 straight points to start the second half, and that was enough to carry them to victory.
So, guys, UW-Oshkosh, that John Carroll game last week, 10-3 in very cold weather. Believe it or not, it was colder when they played John Carroll than it is here tonight. The high temperature in the valley was around 30-ish degrees. Right now we're at about 28 degrees. It's actually going to warm up as the game goes along by a couple of degrees. So this is as cold as it's going to get, but the wind may blow a little bit. does that bode well for this Oshkosh team?
Well, I mean, the obvious is, Mary Hardin Baylor's from Texas. They don't play in this weather very often. I think they've only played one game outside of Texas all year, if that's correct. And, so naturally you think Oshkosh has an advantage. I think the biggest factor, though, more so than the cold, would be the wind. If you remember last year's Stag Bowl 43, it was extremely windy, and the wind played a factor throughout the game. The wind isn't blowing nearly as hard this year, so I don't think it's going to be much of a factor. I think Blake Jackson will be able to throw the ball downfield when he wants to. But, these Texas players aren't used to this. Most of the roster is from Texas, from the South. They don't play in this very often. You played in some games. You played some games in the South against some Texas teams when you were a player. What affects a player in that kind of environment?
Well, they have wind down in Texas, so they'll be used to that. And it does get cold.
Yes, it does.
We all have kind of the same weather.
But this is some extreme cold, I think, in comparison.
I think so. But I think the adrenaline of the game will take over. They'll be fine. I think the biggest adjustment for both teams is they don't have one player that's been here in this game. So minimizing distractions to get it to be like the regular season, so that everything is normal.
And that's what both coaches said this week. They just want to treat it like another game. It's the next step in the journey. It's just the next game on the schedule. And I think the players, as excited as they were after winning the semifinals, quickly turned the page to this game.
Let me quickly go over here to Mary Hardin Baylor at 14-0 this season. It's tough to really pick out a turning point when you go 14-0 in a season. But what do you think really inflated their, let's say, mentality to go all the way here? At what point in the season, playoffs or otherwise, Kevin, do you think they really caught fire here?
Well, I really think against Redlands when they were down 21 points and made that comeback to win, I think that was their turning point during the playoffs. As Frank said, the regular season, they're expected to be in the playoffs. But that second half against Redlands, they really stepped up.
Yeah, and talking to a bunch of Mary Hardin Baylor players over the last few weeks, they all, to a man, said the turning point for them was that Linfield game in Week 3 down in Texas. They entered this season, everyone says they're one of those teams on the verge. They've been here once before in 2004, the program has, but they've fallen short, and they entered this year with a combined 0-9 record against Linfield and Wisconsin Whitewater. Had never beaten either program. So to get that win against Linfield in Week 3 really proved to themselves that they can compete with any team in the country. Linfield was highly thought of. Linfield was expected by many people to be here today. So beating them and the way they beat them, in the second half, just blowing the doors off in a 66-27 win, gave Mary Hardin Baylor so much confidence that they could be a national power this year.
Folks, if you like what you're hearing so far, you're going to hear a lot more of it throughout this broadcast. Let's talk about where we are going in this broadcast. We're going to actually have some former players from both Mary Hardin Baylor and Wisconsin Oshkosh joining us in the next couple of segments. Then we're going to break down the game a little bit, the X's and O's, talk about when each team has the ball. We'll be talking to Pat Coleman to set up the broadcast for the actual Stag Bowl later on here on D3Football.com. We'll also have Dan Dutcher, the Vice President for Division III in the NCAA, talk about a lot of different topics related to Salem, indeed, and D3 football in general. And then we'll talk about our memories from the season and maybe even predict this game that's going to be going on after this show. It'll be All-America show, as the 2016 D3Football.com All-America teams will be named. Pat Coleman and I will run down that list for you. We'll have interviews with the coaches with Pat. After that, you got a jam-packed 2 hours ahead of you here, folks. But right now, I think we're going to prepare to go to a break and then have our first set of guests join us. So again, you are watching the Stag Bowl 44 pregame show on D3Football.com.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was scared and shy. It was hard to look at people's faces. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. I made friends and won lots of gold medals. But I learned more than just playing golf. Special Olympics helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
For the love of the game. That's what it's all about, they say. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that.
It's more about team and the schools and communities we represent.
And for the many of us blessed with the strength to compete in sport at the college level, we understand that, with what we were given, comes a special obligation.
Our obligation to help those who have their own special needs and whose love for the game is no less intense.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. Since August of 2011, we and others from Division III campus communities have volunteered more than 250,000 hours, time away from the classroom and practice field, reaching across the country to coach and mentor Special Olympics athletes.
And to learn that in giving, we receive so much more in return. Help us keep that dream alive.
Be part of it.
Get involved.
You can make a difference.
And we are back here on the Stag Bowl 44 pregame show. Frank Rossi with Adam Turr and our first special guest from University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh, former linebacker for the team, Kevin McCudden. Sir, you helped maybe ignite some of this success in this team last year as a senior. First off, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
And second, did you see this coming?
This is kind of a developing thing over the past, 5 to 6 years at this program for sure. Since Coach Roney's been there, they kind of had a big year in 2012, and that's a credit to what they did. They really implemented a lot of leadership into their program and kind of how they run it as a whole. And the biggest thing that we kind of try to do in 2015 is really bring everyone together, continue that leadership, type environment. And the success they're having this year is not a surprise to me at all. It's just continued leadership. A lot of these guys are experienced players. They've been around. They've been starters for multiple years. And they're really just taking that leadership role and taking on the young guys that are contributing and kind of making everyone feel like a family.
Well, it's an incredible ascent by this team after what was a 2012 that we saw Oshkosh maybe finally break through for the first time. They fell off for a couple of years, obviously, but then back in a huge way. Adam, I know you've been watching this ascent.
Yeah, what is playing in the WIAC? And the conference is so strong, and you see a program like Whitewater, and then Oshkosh went out and scheduled Mount Union in the non-conference a few years before you got there. But just what is the weekend play in Platteville, play in Whitewater? How does that prepare a program for when you go to the playoffs and play these other schools?
Right, and that's the biggest thing is there's no easy week in the WIAC, and really you have to prepare every week like it could end your season because, one loss in the WIAC, you might not make the playoffs. This year was kind of a different year, but it showed how strong our conference was. There are 3 WIAC teams in the playoffs. So for us, we know it's a serious game every single week, and we have to prepare seriously through the every game.
Coach Cerrone, I got to know him a little bit on the day that they finally arrived. We didn't get to talk much about that in the open, but the flat tire scenario.
Oh, yeah.
And he was one of those guys that was good-humored about it. To me, it hit me like a guy that's telling his team, look, the worst thing that happens this week is we have a flat tire in a plane, then everything's great from there. But he wanted to get to this practice field so badly on Wednesday. Is that his mentality? Is he that kind of players coach that, he wants his players to be out there ready to go and everything else? Tell us about him a little bit.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I really think Coach Roney does that sets him apart from a lot of coaches I've had and seen is that he really puts all the leadership and kind of control onto the team. He's there as kind of the hand overseer, but really he lets the team run itself. The seniors take control. They make a lot of the decisions in the process of what we do. And the best part is that he lets us, the seniors make those decisions. And a lot of times you see the kids you bring into your program, that'll determine how successful your season is. And he brings in such great kids that they end up being such great leaders by their senior years that, that type of leadership of the seniors works out perfect.
Yeah, that was one thing that really struck me about this program is the trust. Coach Cerrone has so much trust in his coordinators. He's very hands-off and trusts those guys to do the thing. And then what really surprised me, and I would love this as a player, is you get to make the calls on the field. And how much preparation is there and how much preparation is expected, watching film, breaking down film with the coaches, so when you get to Saturday, the coaches just trust you guys to make the calls on the field?
The biggest thing is it is expected. I mean, if you want to be great in football today, you got to watch film. And we watch film with the coaches. We watch film by ourselves. But honestly, the way these coaches take their time day in and day out, they spend hours upon hours every week watching. So the amount of work they're putting in is incredible. But for us in our program, our defensive scheme specifically, how kind of loose it is sometimes, we prepare crazy, but a lot of the things we do is because we kind of know what we do, we pick things up, and we can alter our defense, and that's what the nice part is about our defense.
For those just joining us, Kevin McCudden, former linebacker at UW-Oshkosh, joining us right here, senior last year, and the team that went to the quarterfinals, if memory serves me here. So why'd you come? Why'd you come to this one?
Well, once a Titan, always a Titan. That's kind of the biggest thing. You're a Titan family. My best friend since high school and elementary school is Dallas Ramos de Leon. He's number 32. He's the outside linebacker, and he's playing tonight. He got an extra year through medical and red shirting and gray shirting type thing. So I'm excited to watch him. Everyone else on the team, they've honestly been great friends and influences in my life. These coaches are like parents to me. Honestly, they're wonderful people and leaders to me and role models. So I'd do anything. I'd drive another 100,000 miles to come watch this game just to support them. So
that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have one more question for you. You played linebacker.
That's right.
So in practice every day, you face this crazy offense that no one else has seen.
Yes.
What is the key to preparing for this offense, and how fun were those practices having to compete against all the different shifts and motions and formations?
Well, we tried to stay positive sometimes as a defense because we would say this offense is better than a lot of offenses we might face ever in any game. So the amount of athletes they have, the shifts, I mean, I don't know how they don't mess up more, at practice, because they're literally shifting guys left and right. Linemen are moving, you got tight ends running out to receivers, quarterbacks running out. I mean, it's incredible. So for us, we just try to go with it and, look at Coach C for as much help as we can get. But it's just, it's a great environment at practice. We all have fun, and it's a great time.
So we're going to let you go back outside and tailgate a little bit more before this game begins. So we do appreciate you joining us. And I'm guessing you have a prediction that Oshkosh might win this game? What do you think?
I believe so. That's going to be my prediction, is that we're going to go home with our first national championship for the school.
That would be awesome for your school.
Ooh.
Wait.
That's going to be that's a ballsy move. I'm not good at that.
You're just happy to have a win.
That's right.
You'll take it any way you get it.
It's as long as it's by 1 point. That's
we'll
all
let them off
need.
easy. Let them have some fun.
That's right. That's
Thanks,
right.
Kevin.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us.
Kevin McCudden, former linebacker for UW-Oshkosh. We're going to take a break and have some equal time with some Mary Hardin Baylor alumni coming up here on the Stag Bowl 44 pregame show. These lips will move. Trust me.
This is our It's On Us pledge. It's on us to make a personal commitment to help keep all people safe from sexual assault, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, or ability.
Not to be bystanders to the problem, but to be leaders of the solution. We invite you to join us in this campaign by informing your campuses about the It's On Us mission.
It starts right when you hit the court. You imagine your finest moment. The game-winning shot that gets you to the dance, a monster dunk or no-look pass, and cutting down the net. Sports lets us dream of our own success and prepare us for our finest moments on and off the court.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
And we are back here on the Stag Bowl 44 pregame show on D3Football.com. Again, I'm Frank Rossi with Adam Turer. Two guests on this segment. First off, closest to me from the 2004 Stag Bowl team, former defensive end Keith Zunker, and number 35 in that same team, Austin Schrader, former wide receiver. Guys, thanks for joining us first off. And this is got to be an exciting moment. I mean, you're back here for the first time, I'm guessing, in 12 years. How does it feel, Keith?
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. 12 years in the making. We've always been, even in those 12 years, we've always been right there. Just winning that one last game, it's tough. So we're glad to be back.
And Austin, you know, this team, the common bond, really, Coach Fredenberg, when you think about it, he was a coach then, coach now. How special is it to see him get this opportunity again for you guys?
Oh, I'm so excited for him and a couple other guys on the coaching staff and even guys that played before us. But just to see Coach Fredenberg be able to come back here, and I know that's, you know, hope that he wins it, just kind of complete his legacy as a coach and, you know, do great things for university. So I'm pretty pumped up for him to have the chance to do that, and hope he can pull it off.
You know, Adam, I was here, as I was saying, Wednesday, got to meet both coaches, and they're so very happy-go-lucky characters. Unlike maybe some of the other coaches I've seen over time, they're a lot more serious about it. Coach Fredenberg was just really loose, it seemed like, on Wednesday.
They're two of my favorite guys to talk to in all Division III. And what is it about, I was going to ask you guys, because I mean the culture hasn't really changed much ever in the program, because Coach Fred started it in 1998. Mm-hmm. He's been there the whole time. So what is it about the culture that, you know, brings in such good players and then makes it so fun to play there and so successful at the same time?
Well, I think he's just really good at relating to players and getting on their level. He's also just got a way of, you know, being a great leader, but it's just really fun to be around him. I mean, he's just a great guy to talk to. He's very personable. He has an open door policy, you know, and you know, he's us being older, like he's been to our weddings and things like that, and I think that's kind of what guys see in him when they get recruited by Mary Hardin Baylor.
And it's funny because he had a Division I background before he started the program, but he seems like such a D3 guy. You know what I mean? I mean,
sure.
Did you get the same sense when you played there that he really related to you guys and what you were going through?
Absolutely. I mean, Pete's always been a guy that if he talks, you listen. And he when he talks, I mean, he's saying the right things, and he means it from the bottom of his heart. So I mean, he's one of the best coaches I've ever been around. I actually, of course, played for him and then actually coached under him as well, GA. And so I learned a lot of football from him, and you know, I wouldn't change it for the world.
Let's talk about that 2014 that you guys were a part of. You know, it was for a lot of people a surprise at the time to see Mary Hardin Baylor do what they did, but ever since then, you basically created the excellence that we expect from this team. Tell us about your trip to Salem, what you remembered most from it, and, you know, what you took away, maybe share with the players today, or, you know, during the playoffs especially, to help them get to this point.
Right. Well, I mean, probably the biggest thing is it was, for me and probably Austin as well, was being able to take it all in and not get overwhelmed, I guess, and concentrate on the task. You know what I mean? Hopefully, you know, that'll the outcome will be a little different today. But you know, just being here at Salem was great stuff, and we were all over the town doing all kinds of cool stuff. So it was an awesome experience.
Also, what were your best memories?
My best memories were just back then. It was like everything we did that postseason was new. We had never won a playoff game. We'd never beat Trinity. So the whole run was just, you know, and we did everything on the road. So we won 4 road games to get here. So that was really neat to me to, like, you know, I'd never really been on a plane really, for that matter. So we kind of got to fly around the country and, you know, to finally get here and have an opportunity to, you know, play for national championship and, you know, be on ESPN and all that. It was pretty overwhelming, but also just a great time. And, you know, the message I kind of give the guys now when I talk to them is, like, you guys get to do something that no one in this program has ever done, and that's win the national championship. So, you know, if you want to be remembered and have them forget about us, then, you know, win the thing, you know.
What a family this Mary Hardin Baylor family over the years is. I sensed it all week long. I heard that there are 6 fan buses coming up here, in fact, Adam.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It's pretty impressive. I mean, the support, what kind of support did you guys get from Texas when you guys made the first trip? What do you remember about the people, the fans, and the families that came up?
Oh, it was incredible. Like, our university's always been really good about supporting the football program, the students, our fellow student body, and the faculty. I mean, it's always been really great. We had a ton of close friends that came up and said hi to us in our hotel room in Roanoke, and I don't know, what do you think, Keith?
I think exactly the same, man. It was back in '04. It was the first time we'd been here, so there wasn't a whole lot of expectations from us, I guess.
Yeah.
And the fans, they grew with us. I mean, we were always 9-1, 10-1, 12-11-1. We couldn't get over the hump, and we finally did it. I mean, the support just became freaking outstanding.
And one thing you had mentioned, Austin, was beating Trinity for the first time, and that was one kind of benchmark that you hadn't cleared yet. And you guys lost to Linfield in the Stagg Bowl, and that was another hurdle that this program over the 11 years since then couldn't get over.
Right.
So winning that game in the regular season this year, for you guys, beating Trinity really helped propel you. So for these current players, getting over that Linfield hump in week 3, what does that do to a player's psyche and the program's mentality, and how important was that win for this club this year?
Yeah, I mean, like, for us, I think that's kind of what, I had played Trinity 2 previous times, me and Keith, in 2001 and then 2002. And I think 2002, we were number 3 in the country, and they were 4 or 4 and 5, and we lost to Trinity, so it's like, golly, like,
got your number.
How are we going to get out of the first round ever, And so when we beat Trinity that in 2004, that really helped us to be like, hey, we could, boost our confidence, and kind of propelled us onto.
So, guys, not to hurry you off, but we do want to get to the X's and O's breakdown, and we're going to put pressure on Adam in a bit. But I want to ask you first, before you leave us, what's your prediction of the game briefly? Austin Schrader first.
Okay. Well, I would say, our defense has always carried our program, so I expect them to play great tonight. It's been really exciting watching our offense. It's so much different than when me and Keith were there. we were an option team then.
Yep.
So it's really. So of course I got Mary Hardin Baylor.
Yeah.
But
by how much?
I think we're going to win by. I think it's going to be a good game. I think we're going to win by 17, though. I really do.
Keith Zunker, what do you say?
I would say 28-14.
28-14. I like it. Short and sweet. And we're going to go to a break right now. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Go Crew.
You're on the Stag Bowl 44 pregame show on D3Football.com.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he should have had that. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all. It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, then I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
And we are back here on the Stag Bowl 44 pregame show. We are rejoined now by Kevin Neas. We're going to break down the game for you folks. We'll start to at least. First, we're going to talk about when Wisconsin-Oshkosh has the ball. Before we go there, we alluded to it in a couple segments ago. Adam, they had a little trouble getting here in the first place 2 days ago. A flat tire on a plane basically forced them not to arrive on Tuesday night as scheduled, but unfortunately for them on Wednesday, they lost a little time in the process, but the NCAA obviously worked with them to make sure that they would get their media time and their practice time on Wednesday. It had to be a little nerve-wracking, though, for a team that was coming in here and, wanting to have a certain pace, a certain style when they got here, and that kind of got thrown out the window.
Yeah, but I think if you have any coach who can roll with the punches like that and keep your team focused and light at the same time, it's Pat Cerrone.
Amen.
I think he will show tonight that he did a great job keeping his players focused. It's Stag Bowl week. They've never been here. It was all going to be new to them anyway, so they didn't really have anything to compare it to, so it really wasn't that big of a deal. On the flip side, though, Pete Fredenberg's been here once before in 2004, so he learned some things from that experience. For instance, last time he came here on Tuesday, they practiced at home, like their typical afternoon practice time.
Yep.
Got to Salem late, so he knew this time around they wanted to have an early morning practice. They were in Salem pretty early Tuesday evening, so that was something that he might have an advantage having been here once before.
Let's talk now about the UWO offense and the UMHB defense. You're an offensive guy, you're a defensive guy, so I'm going to let you guys take the floor for a couple minutes each. Tell us about the offense first for UWO.
Well, I think their offense is similar to Whitewater, and I know we don't want to mention them tonight, but
you can. We'll allow you there.
So they're similar in that they have a big physical offensive line. What's different about them is the orbit motion, the jet motion. It gets the linebackers and safeties off of where they should be, and it creates creases for their running backs. So I think that's the difference. I look for Oshkosh to throw some passes also in the seams. Mary Hardin Baylor plays with 5 defensive backs. It's tough to complete passes down the field. Your typical curl flat routes aren't there against them. So if they do throw, watch for the seams.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the motions and the shifting, the pre-snap, it makes your head spin. If you're a defensive player, I mean, it's so hard to prepare for, especially in a short week. So I don't know, if I'm UW-Oshkosh, I want to strike early and throw everything at them. The other thing they have, I'll talk on the defensive side for Mary Hardin Baylor. The best counterpart to that motion and shifting is just having a defense that can line up and hit you in the mouth. And Mary Hardin Baylor has one of the best defensive lines we've ever seen in Division III. And Pete Fredenberg said it's the best defensive line he's had at Mary Hardin Baylor. And if those 4 guys can just stay disciplined, stay in their lane, let the 7 guys behind them do what they do and make big plays, it'll really counterbalance all the variety of shifting and motion.
Let me ask a question of you guys. Last week, only 10 points for the offense. I don't want to say what went wrong, but what do you attribute it to?
Well, they knew what kind of game they were in. They were in a dogfight with a great defensive team, and they have a great defense as well. And we kind of saw that in both semifinals last week, where they said, "Hey, defense, you're gonna help us win this game."
Yeah, one thing I'm interested in to see from both teams is what kind of toll that style semifinal takes. I mean, John Carroll's defense, like you said, is one of the best defenses in the country. The Titans were getting hit. I mean, they were getting stuffed. So how much will that affect them physically going into today? And then on the flip side, Mary Hardin Baylor's defense played great last week, but they played against Mount Union. And that offensive line and that offense is not easy to go against. And that takes a physical toll on the team, and having to turn around on a short week and face another similar offense with a big offensive line is going to be a tough task.
They really had 2 weeks straight with Wheaton as well.
Yeah.
And you saw what they did to Wheaton. Wheaton couldn't get anything going, but they were lining up and just running straight at them, and that doesn't work against Mary Hardin Baylor.
Now, Mary Hardin Baylor, if I could sum up their defense in one word, perhaps it would be doom.
Tiedrick Smith
and his leadership on that defense. Let's talk about him a little bit and that defensive unit.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it starts up front with Tiedrick Smith, Haston Adams. They've got guys who can just get a big push up front. They don't have to blitz. They don't have to stunt. They can just go head up, man up, and just get in the backfield. And that really, as a former quarterback, That's frustrating when the defense is in your own guys, your own guards are getting pushed into your face. How frustrating is that, and how much does it affect a team that wants to do a lot of read, delay, fakes? You know, you can't really have time for plays to develop when you're getting pushed back like that.
As far as the throwing goes, if you're looking at anything but downfield as a quarterback, you're done, because you look back up and things are different. People aren't where they're supposed to be, and so looking at the rush is a big no-no. And, that jumps out at you when you watch the tape. Also, their team speed. Their team speed is phenomenal, especially for this level.
Yeah, and Oshkosh wants to get to the edge. I mean, the reason they run those motions and shifts is they want to get to the edge, and they have a bunch of different guys that can do it. One thing we're not sure about is Dom Tottarello. You know, he really, the offense didn't do much last week against John Carroll, but early in the game, he was getting some yardage, on the ground and through the air. He went out with an ankle injury in the second quarter, didn't play and didn't touch the ball in the second half. So his availability tonight, I think, is key, because they want to have a variety of weapons, because if it's just Dylan Hecker or if it's just Devin Linsenmeyer back there, the defense knows where the ball's going to go.
Yeah, they definitely need him to threaten the edge of the defense, to stretch them out, to find those creases. I think it'll be really interesting. The first 10 minutes of the game, I think you'll see.
So if you had to predict who you think will win the line of scrimmage when Oshkosh has the ball, who would you say? We'll start with Kevin first.
I would say Oshkosh would win probably 3 out of the 4 battles up front. Smith, he's unblockable. So,
yeah, and I think that right there is the matchup of the game. I mean, for me, if you read quick hits today and you saw all different predictions, you picked Oshkosh. I picked Mary Hardin Baylor, and the reason I picked Mary Hardin Baylor was for just that reason. Their front four, and I think that front four has the strength to get a push up front, but also the speed to not let the Titans get to the edge the way they want to. And I think that's going to be the difference. I think those front four is going to be why Mary Hardin Baylor wins today.
And they've blocked really great defensive lines this year, but they haven't seen the level of athlete that they're going to see today.
And I picked tie, basically, regulation, if you were going to ask here. And I said eventually Oshkosh would win in overtime. It looks that close to me, that razor thin. But we've talked about only one side of the ball for now. Why don't we take a break? And in a little bit, we'll get to the other side of the ball. But first, folks, you're watching the Stag Bowl 44 pregame show on D3Football.com.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was scared and shy. It was hard to look at people's faces. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. I made friends and won lots of gold medals. But I learned more than just playing golf. Special Olympics helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
For the love of the game. That's what it's all about, they say. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that.
It's more about team and the schools and communities we represent.
And for the many of us blessed with the strength to compete in sport at the college level, we understand that with what we were given comes a special obligation.
Our obligation to help those who have their own special needs and whose love for the game is no less intense.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. Since August of 2011, we and others from Division III campus communities have volunteered more than 250,000 hours, time away from the classroom and practice field, reaching across the country to coach and mentor Special Olympics athletes.
And to learn that in giving, we receive so much more in return. Help us keep that dream alive.
Be part of it.
Get involved.
You can make a difference.
So we are just getting off the set ourselves right now a little bit, so you can see what's going on behind us here in the Stag Bowl 44 pregame show. This is UW-Oshkosh in the pregame, and you may notice some players with flesh tone uniform on. That's actually not flesh tone. That's them with their shirts off in 28-degree weather. Probably not the best idea for players back home to do this, but
they've got a whole off season to get healthy and recover.
You know, I have 13 layers of clothes on, and I get sick every year after doing this, and yet these guys are doing what they're doing. Hello to UW-Oshkosh and their team. Guys, let's get back on set real quick here. And, Kevin, you've got the ball, a football here, and you want to talk about this a little bit. This is one of UW-O's balls. Let's talk about it.
Well, tonight's weather is going to impact the game in ways that we've already talked about. But what we haven't said is the slickness of these new balls. And there is a new gel that they put on during the week, and there's different ways that quarterbacks scuff it. But I thought it was interesting feeling how slick these balls were.
And who does that affect the most? Because obviously Mary Hardin Baylor likes to throw the downfield pass more, whereas Oshkosh is more content to hit the edges and the seams.
I'd say watch early on in the game because with both teams, they both handle the ball a lot, especially Oshkosh, though, with the fakes and whatnot. Watch for ball control issues.
Yes, it's not just the quarterbacks. It could be a fumbled exchange or a fumbled snap.
You can tell, folks, I did not play football because I cannot even pound a football with my hands. Sarah, I'll let you do a little duty there with that. We're going to talk about briefly, if you go to, is it on the main site? I didn't get to see, but in social media at least, d3football.com is hosting some bingo cards. If you should choose to watch the ESPN broadcast, keep their audio on, then you can. Yeah, it was close.
I played defense.
Yeah.
I probably should have thrown that.
Yeah, you probably should have quarterback. But
he didn't want to show off.
Well, that's it's not showing off when it's both of us. Anyway, there's a bingo card to check off and have a little fun with the ESPN broadcast. But you can, of course, listen to our broadcast. I'll be on the sideline, freezing for you folks, and Pat Coleman and Keith McMillan will be up in the booth delivering Stag Bowl 44 play-by-play and color commentary, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. When we come back from this break, we will break down when UMHB has the ball and then have Dan Dutcher, the Vice President for Division III of the NCAA, join me for a discussion about Salem and Division III football. Stay tuned. It's D3Football.com's pregame show.
This is our It's On Us pledge. It's on us to make a personal commitment to help keep all people safe from sexual assault, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, or ability.
Not to be bystanders to the problem, but to be leaders of the solution. We invite you to join us in this campaign by informing your campuses about the It's On Us mission.
It starts right when you hit the court. You imagine your finest moment. The game-winning shot that gets you to the dance. A monster dunk or no-look pass, and cutting down the net. Sports lets us dream of our own success and prepare us for our finest moments on and off the court.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
We're not cold. Don't worry, folks. It's beautiful out here under these bright lights of Salem Stadium in Salem, Virginia for Stag Bowl 44. This is the pregame show on D3Football.com. we've already talked about when Wisconsin-Oshkosh has the ball and what that matchup looks like. Let's turn it around now and talk about when Mary Hardin Baylor has the ball and the Wisconsin-Oshkosh defense's response to that. We'll go again to our offensive guru here, Kevin Neas. Let's talk about that offense of Mary Hardin Baylor.
Well, what jumps out at you is great athletes across their skill positions and big linemen like we're used to from a Mary Hardin Baylor team. Then you combine that with the quarterback play. He's been dynamic this year. 300 yards and 700 yards rushing. He's had a great year. And an explosive offense.
Yeah,
I think the key for Blake Jackson is not to force anything to make mistakes. And again, this weather, as a quarterback from Texas, he might be the one person in the stadium most affected, besides Frank. Might be the other person most affected by the weather tonight.
You do worry about that because when you're that supremely athletically talented at quarterback, sometimes you think you can make any play. And as the old coaches used to tell me, live to play another play, throw that thing 10 rows deep.
Yeah, because there's an Oshkosh defense that can really frustrate a quarterback and frustrate an offense, and we've seen that. They had forced 8 turnovers against St. Thomas, another 4 last week. I mean, this defense is so difficult to prepare for because much like the Titans offense, they have flexibility, they have versatility. The players make most of their own calls based on what they see from personnel and from formations, and they can really come at you. No matter what you throw at them, they're prepared for, and they can mess with your head a little bit.
It's definitely unique, and if you remember Meglin last week for JCU, he's also a running quarterback. You wouldn't know that by watching the tape, though.
Yeah, it was a different week for him in a lot of different ways last week. The weather last week in the matchup between the Crew and the Purple Raiders was probably around 50 degrees, or maybe a little bit less, and that's cold by Texas standards. So you think they got a little bit of a flavor for what to expect here by that weather that night or that afternoon?
I think so, and they've practiced yesterday. So these kids are resilient. I mean, they'll adjust to it. There will be an adjustment process. It'll be a little bit different in the beginning.
And I think it was good for them to win a game the way they did last week, too. I mean, they've been putting up so many points all season long. I think the 2 games that really stand out was the 20-15 win over Hardin Simmons, showing they could win a close, hard-fought game. And then last week against Mount Union with a Stag Bowl berth on the line, showing that they can grind out a low-scoring defensive game, I think really helps their offense understand we don't have to be spectacular. We don't have to try to do too much. And, if they can get the ground game going with Markeith Miller, I think that is going to be the key today because you're going to have to control the ball, keep Oshkosh's offense on the sideline, and not turn the ball over and not have any quick 3-and-outs. They seemed content last week against Mount Union to just punt the ball and get the defense back out there and let their defense work, and I think they can do that again today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a close game. I think we're all in agreement about that, and last week's result will help them not panic because it's the first time.
Let me talk about something that you don't look at too often in playoff rosters because of the shortness of the rosters compared to the regular season, but the depth of these teams. You see, and I wrote about this in my quick hit, the specialists for Mary Hardin Baylor are probably supreme or superior to Wisconsin-Oshkosh. It's based on even the All-American teams that will be released, and stay tuned for that. Around 6:20 or thereabouts is when they will be released officially here on D3Football.com. But you look at the number of players that played in the playoff games, and that favors UW-Oshkosh. It seemed like they were putting in more players throughout the game and spreading out those stats a lot more. Is there something to that?
I don't know. I think that depth, the experience this year, is counterbalanced by the playoff experience the Mary Hardin Baylor's players have. They've been playing 13, 14 games a season. Now they're playing a 15th game for the first time, whereas the Oshkosh guys are getting, for a lot of these guys, this is their first taste of a long playoff run after being bounced in the quarterfinals last year. So I'm not sure, and obviously our ultimate picks we split on, but I don't think the depth, I mean, it could be a factor. I mean, it seems like every year in the Stag Bowl, a player makes a big play who no one expected to make a big play. And so I think we could see that happen again. Who's it going to be? It could be anybody. And you brought up special teams, and that's something we definitely have to talk about because both these teams excel at special teams, but probably no team in the country, few teams in the country have as much special teams impact as Mary Hardin Baylor does.
Yeah, 23 yards at kickoff return, that jumps off the table at you.
But in terms of field goal accuracy, Wisconsin-Oshkosh actually has a slight edge in that, and that could play a role in a night like tonight.
It does, yeah.
That is true. I mean, we could see some fakes from either team. We could see some blocked punts, blocked kicks from either team. I mean, these teams are aggressive. Both have aggressive special teams units that aren't afraid, because when you have a defense like you have behind you, you can be a little more aggressive on special teams and not worry about it costing you a game.
Yeah, let's not forget, against Wheaton, Mary Hardin Baylor scored 3 different ways: a return, an interception, return, and a block punt.
And that's not unusual for them at all.
Guys, I asked you the same question a little bit ago, so let's go. Who wins this battle of the line of scrimmage between the Mary Hardin Baylor offense and the Wisconsin-Oshkosh defense?
I'm the defensive guy. I might go with the defense here. I think, much like last week against Mount Union, Mary Hardin Baylor is going to have to go deep and maybe get a little bit lucky with a big play over the top, because I just don't see them moving the chains. I don't see a long 12-play, 80-yard drive against this Titans defense.
Yeah, let me say that I don't think UW-Oshkosh is going to let this be just their front 4. They're not going to put it on them.
Yep.
So the front 7, and I go back to last week, Mount Union coming into Belton, Texas, and having a down year with that, and that defensive line played great. Their front 7 played great.
Yep.
I think UW-Oshkosh is going to study that film, and they'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, yards are going to be hard to come by today for both teams.
Absolutely right. Guys, we're going to take a break here, and I believe he was here a little bit ago. I'm sure we'll track him back down here. Dan Dutcher, the Vice President for Division III, will be joining us here on the pregame show. Again, this is the Stag Bowl 44 pregame show on D3Football.com.
This is our It's On Us pledge. It's on us to make a personal commitment to help keep all people safe from sexual assault, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, or ability.
Not to be bystanders to the problem, but to be leaders of the solution. We invite you to join us in this campaign by informing your campuses about the It's On Us mission.
It starts right when you hit the court. You imagine your finest moment. The game-winning shot that gets you to the dance, a monster dunk or no-look pass, and cutting down the net. Sports lets us dream of our own success and prepare us for our finest moments on and off the court.
Division III allows you.
This is not Dan Dutcher, just so you know, folks. This is Pat Coleman instead, executive editor.
If you're watching this, you know who this man is.
Yeah, really.
Hopefully, maybe.
From D3Football.com, 2 new teams, so we have a lot of new viewers, I bet you, on this one.
That's true.
And, Pat, exciting for us to have 2 new teams here, quote-unquote new teams. But, you know, at the same time, it's the same old hat for us. Why don't we talk about the broadcast that's coming up and what we're up to here.
Yeah, so of course after this, in a few minutes after this, Frank and I will reveal the D3Football.com All-American team. You should be playing along at home, though. Maybe not with this show, although I know some people have been playing bingo here with our pregame show. You're supposed to save that for when ESPNU does its video broadcast online at 7. What we would love to have you do is watch that, because how can you not watch the Stag Bowl? You know, pause your DVR, sync it up with Keith McMillan and Frank Rossi and I as we do the game broadcast with, Division III football expertise. We'd love to have you do that and play along with bingo. You can find that on Twitter. You can find it on our Facebook page.
For people that might be outside right now watching this show, or maybe still in their hotel room staying warm like smart people they are, we have a first coming up tonight. Adam, why don't we tell the folks about what we're up to after the game?
Yeah, so this is the pregame show. Then we're going to have the live broadcast. We'll have a halftime show as well with Kevin and myself. Post-game show, we're very excited. We're going to be at Mac and Bob's in Salem. It's about a mile down the road from the stadium. We want you all to come join us. We'd love to have a D3 football nation filling up Mac and Bob's and listen to our live post-game broadcast where we break down Stag Bowl 44 and the 2016 season.
Yeah, so that's the final Around the Nation podcast. Keith will probably be here by then. We're certainly hoping. He's listening to us somewhere on Interstate 81.
He's watching. He said.
He better not be watching. He's driving.
Keith, stop watching us and drive.
Yeah. But, yeah, this is, Keith and I and the rest of this crew obviously look forward to this all year, every year. I'm happy about this. I've seen Oshkosh play 3 times. I've seen Mary Hardin Baylor play twice. I am super looking forward to calling this game coming up here in a little bit over an hour.
And just so we get the details, we got it right here. Mac and Bob's on 316 East Main Street in Cedarland, Virginia. It's Mac, M-A-C, and Bob's.
Yeah.
Open until 2 a.m.
Please come
Delicious
on down
food.
and tell them that d3football.com sent you, and they'll put you near us. Don't be scared. We're going to take a break. Dan Dutcher coming up right after this break. It's the Stag Bowl 44 pregame show here in the city of Salem, the Salem Stadium.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, then I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
We are honored in so many ways this Stag Bowl. First off, obviously, you look at our scenic positioning here with the field to our back. And again, thanks to the City of Salem and NCAA for helping us out with these aspects. And speaking of the NCAA, also very honored to have the Vice President for Division III with us, Dan Dutcher, joining us. Dan, thanks for joining us on the pregame show.
My pleasure, Frank. It's an honor to be here.
What brought you here? This is my 10th one. I don't know if you've been to any that I've been to in the meantime, but you came out here for the cold one, right? That's for sure, but a fun one nonetheless. What brought you to Salem?
You know, I try to attend a fall, a winter, and a spring championship, at least one. It's been several years, you're right, since I've been here. But since I started working full-time with Division III back in 1996, I've probably been to about 10 Stag Bowls. It's just been several years since I've returned from the last time. It's such a great event. I'm a football fan, of course, but I like coming to Salem because the quality of the championship, the student-athlete experience, I think, is second to none. And it's great to be here as a fan, too.
Now, for those that don't know, the City of Salem has to rebid for this event. It's a every few-year bid process. And a lot of people wonder, does the past performance, is it indicative of possible future results in terms of the bid awarding or not? Why don't you take people through a little bit of what maybe to expect over the next few months? I know other cities want to host this event, so how does this work?
Sure, and it's a pretty complicated process. Right now, the NCAA, I believe, is looking at trying to identify future host locations for a 4-year chunk of time for all sports. And so cities are invited to bid, potential hosts are invited to bid for one or all 4 of those years. And then each of our sports committees, each of the committees that runs each of the individual championships, reviews all the bids, supported by our championship staff, and makes recommendations for where those championships should be awarded. they definitely look at things like past experience, the scope of the bid, what's promised, whether they can deliver what's promised. Certainly a city like Salem that has such a broad base of championship hosting experience across multiple sports, that really means a lot. But it doesn't mean that it's an automatic. And I know, for example, there are other cities that are interested in hosting the Stag Bowl. It's a prestigious event. Makes sense that others would be interested. That's the kind of thing that the football committee will have to take into consideration when they make their recommendation. That then goes on to our championships committee, which ultimately makes the final recommendation that's ratified by our management council.
Dan, 17 years ago, or let's say 18 years ago, this matchup probably would not have happened because back then there were only 16 teams that were granted access to the Division III football championship, and it was done a lot differently. It was all poll-based at that time. 1999 was the first year that, I believe it was 99, my memory, in this cold, I'll blame it on that, but they determined across all sports in Division III an automatic qualifier system based on an access ratio. And it's done great things. At that time, 28 teams got access to this championship. I think it was in 2005 or thereabouts, it became 32 teams. And in the meantime, Division III football has grown. And a lot of people questioned or wondered, as that's happened at large teams, have kind of shrunken down in that process, where maybe in a few years, an Oshkosh might not get the bid, or Platteville might not have in this case this year, but you know where I'm going with that. Is football going to change at all in terms of its access structure from what you can tell? Because we can't add a week. That seems to be the impossible equation that some people would love to see, but a lot of presidents and ADs would not.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here in what is already a well-expanded playoff?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I do want to compliment you on your memory because I think it was about 99 or 2000 when we implemented automatic qualification. And I just want to emphasize why we did that. It was to give greater emphasis to success in conference competition. If you win the conference, the feeling was that you ought to have access to the championship. And that, I think, was a significant change in direction for us, but I think it served us well over time. I think it's helped to grow across multiple sports, not only football, it's helped to grow conference competition in those sports. You're also making a good point that as sponsorship has increased, we've begun to bump up against how many schools we can accommodate within the time frame that's available. If we were ever to look at any kind of change in the format, that would have to be something that would start with the football committee. Those are our folks that are the most knowledgeable. They do the hands-on administration. We would look to them for any kind of recommendations they would want to make.
But football is not necessarily going to be tied directly to all the rest of Division III. Absolutely, end of sentence. There is a possibility that access ratios or different things could change exclusively in football because of what they're up against.
Yeah, I think we've always sort of recognized that football, because you can only play one contest a week, is in a unique situation. So with the other sports, we have about a 1 to 6.5 access ratio. With football, you got to do it a little bit differently because you can't play 2 contests a week.
Now, one other question for you. The seasons, between the fall season sports and the winter season sports, we're already knee-deep in basketball. In a lot of these schools, wonder how much more overlap can happen. Is that a challenge you're seeing as these sports that maybe either go across different seasons per se, or football that sort of just kind of lingers on for a playoff team especially?
Right.
Are these things being addressed or questioned along the way, and what special challenges at Division III does that kind of pose?
It's a really important question. When we look at Division III, one of the unique things in Division III is we have more multi-sport student athletes than we do in other divisions.
True.
We have more smaller institutions with stresses on facilities, stresses on personnel. So when you talk about expanding playing seasons, it has a unique challenge for our member schools that you may not see in some other sports and some other divisions. So every time we look at possible expansion of seasons, it's something that we have to be very careful with because we want to be sure that we can continue to supply that good student-athlete experience, but it's fully supported by facilities, institutions, trainers, those kinds of things.
Final question for you. We're at the Spotlight on Champions dinner last night. you got to see a lot of great video, first off,
Absolutely.
but some very excited players and families and whatnot. What's your biggest takeaway from this weekend so far without even this game being played yet?
You know, the fact that we have two teams that haven't been here in a while, one team that's never been here, it reinforced for me last night how special of an opportunity this is. And it reinforced for me also why we do what we do. I mean, ultimately, when it's all said and done, we have about 180 student athletes in Division III who are out there doing great things in the classroom, doing great things in the playing field, great things in the community. Here's an opportunity to really celebrate all the good things that they do in a competitive environment. For folks who don't get a chance to be here very often, they don't take it for granted.
Absolutely, and we're telling people where to go and what to see here. It's kind of strange for us because it used to be people tell me what to do here, and it was the same teams over and over for how many years. It seemed like St. Thomas kind of interjected themselves into that, but here we go, a kind of a fresh year. The old teams, I bet you will be back a little bit, though, every now and then, but it gives a lot of hope to the other 240-plus teams out there that access is possible to Salem.
Absolutely. To see success across the board in the division, that's a good thing for the division and for its football programs.
Dan, I'm going to let you go warm up somewhere. I appreciate you joining us.
My pleasure, Frank.
That's Dan Dutcher,
Thank
Vice
you.
President for Division III. We're going to take a break here on the Stag Bowl 44 pregame show on D3Football.com.
This is our It's On Us pledge. It's on us to make a personal commitment to help keep all people safe from sexual assault, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, or ability.
Not to be bystanders to the problem, but to be leaders of the solution. We invite you to join us in this campaign by informing your campuses about the It's On Us mission.
It starts right when you hit the court. You imagine your finest moment. The game-winning shot that gets you to the dance, a monster dunk or no-look pass, and cutting down the net. Sports lets us dream of our own success and prepare us for our finest moments on and off the court.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
Hey, we're back in the nick of time. Will Black, our producer, knows how to give me the countdown, I'll tell you. Okay, folks, I am sans a overcoat right now. We'll talk about that in a minute. This is that segment of the broadcast. We're going to do two things. First off, it's been a long season. It's been, about 15, 16 weeks. This is week 16, in fact. And we want to talk about memories or poignant moments we remember from the season. Talk about a minute each on those. And we were kind of comparing notes earlier today. I think we all have different ones to talk about briefly here. So, Adam Turr, you're the old pro at this. We're going to start with you on this.
Yeah, it's been a great season. Obviously, a lot of exciting playoff games. We had a 4 overtime game. We had a couple games end on the last play. We had some double overtime games. And we have two teams. Oshkosh is here for the first time, and Mary Hardin Baylor is here for the second time, breaking a long streak of some other teams being here. So I think we're all excited about that. And I think all of Division III football is excited because seeing a team like Oshkosh make the breakthrough, much like St. Thomas did a few years ago, gives everybody hope that, any program can get here. You know, if you build the culture the right way, recruit the right kind of players, and you can build things up and get here. And this is what every team aspires to play their last game of the year here in beautiful Salem, Virginia. Things that stand out to me, and I think it's really interesting we have these two teams playing. If you notice, the Oshkosh players behind us warming up all have, the ones that do have shirts on, which is most of them, their shirts say Team Phoenix on them. Phoenix Bridegroom is a young girl, and the team got to know her through the Be the Match program. Quarterback Brett Casper signed up for Be the Match. A lot of players did. They had a drive. I know a lot of teams do that. And Brett was a match, and he donated bone marrow to this young girl with leukemia. Phoenix, after the 1-year waiting period, got to fly. Her family flew to Wisconsin, got to meet Casper and the Titans, and the whole team just rallied around her, adopted her as one of their own. They got some bad news just a couple weeks ago that her cancer came back, and so everything they do, they're playing for Phoenix, and they've really rallied around her. On the flip side, Mary Hardin Baylor, there's a professor at Mary Hardin Baylor who has a 6-year-old daughter named Brielle DeFrancesca, and they've rallied around her. The whole team's adopted her. Her and her parents are actually here tonight to watch the game, and the whole team's really rallied around her and kind of adopted her as their biggest fan. And so it's kind of special and unique that of all the teams in the country, these two teams who are playing for so much inspiration beyond football, beyond just playing for each other, you know, they have great perspective on life that a lot of young men in college might not have yet, and they're getting it through this playoff experience, but also through seeing these young girls with these health issues battling through it, and they know that no matter what happens tonight, this is just a game, and they're going to give us a great game. But those are two stories that really stand out and kind of tie together here in Salem tonight.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Those are two great stories. For me, it would be just an overall feeling. We had Mount Union and Whitewater dominate for a decade. And now there wasn't a truly dominant team that you said, hey, hands down, they're going to win the national title. And I think that the rest of Division III has kind of caught up a little bit, and I think we're in for some more excitement in the next few years.
So, folks, for me, yesterday actually framed my little story here, and for 10 years, I've been the sideline guy, or this will be my 10th as long as I survive the next half hour or so, and that's a question right now with how cold it is here. But nonetheless, last night we heard the very sad news that Craig Sager died, the Turner sports analyst and sideline guy, as it may be. A guy that, as I grew up, never really took to him for some reason or another. Those ostentatious suits and everything he was doing, it just didn't add up to me until, unfortunately, he was stricken with cancer, with leukemia, I believe it was specifically. And you began to understand what the whole thing was that he was doing. He was entertaining us, but at the same time, through the entertainment, he was bringing us stories of players on the court. He was bringing the attention that was being drawn to him to the players. Because you would watch those interviews just like I would, and you would see what was going on with those players and their stories, their backstories, and everything else. And it's a tough loss for a guy like me who looked up to what he was doing, especially the last few years. We are hashtag Sager Strong at this point. And, for me, for anybody that watches this long enough, I take my sense of fashion way too seriously. My parents ingrained that in me. So,
wow. In
honor of Craig Sager and going Sager Strong, this will be my outfit for tonight's sideline guy.
Yeah, we're gonna be able to pick you out of the crowd.
Yes, you will. So get your bingo cards ready, because now you know what I do look like. And in honor of those who survive, including Ernie Johnson Jr., who wears a bow tie at all times, and other Turner sports analysts, and my friend Donna Santa Barbara and others that have survived their cancer situations, their fights. This bow tie will be going as an accessory once I can button my buttons with my hands, which is a little more challenging than you think right now. So here we go. We're going to be Sager Strong, but that's why we do what we do here on D3Football.com. We want to bring attention to these student athletes out here that wouldn't otherwise get this level of attention, because they deserve it as much as anybody for playing for the love of the game. Quickly, predictions, guys. We have them on quick hits, but let's talk about our predictions.
Yeah, if you look at the scores of the last few Stag Bowls, predict the unpredictable. I mean, anything can happen. The last couple years, we've seen great defenses come to Salem. We think, it's going to be a game much like the two semifinals we saw on Saturday, where it's low scoring, grinded out, and then we get here and the scoreboard lights up and we're here till midnight because teams keep scoring points, which is great and exciting. But, I think there's going to be something funky that happens tonight. There's going to be a special teams play, a tipped ball, something we've seen before from these teams, but it's going to swing the momentum. Something that I think we'll see is an offensive coordinator getting a little creative. How early we see that happen is going to be a big difference. I think, just like we said earlier, it comes down to the defensive line of Mary Hardin Baylor.
Give me a score.
Speed. My score is Mary Hardin Baylor 35, Wisconsin-Oshkosh 21.
And I've taken Oshkosh, and I'm going to stay with them. I feel like their defense is very disciplined, and they are going to bottle up the Mary Hardin Baylor offense. I think it'll be a close game, turnover late. 16-13.
How early do we see the Wild Titan offense?
Maybe right away. They got to stop. You have to stop Mary Hardin Baylor from making a run early.
And I'm going to say, for my explanation, go to the D3Football.com, look for the quick hits. But I say 20-17 in overtime in favor of Oshkosh. It was 5-4 in favor of Mary Hardin Baylor in total there. So read all those on D3Football.com. In the meantime, we got to go to the All-America teams because we know you're watching for that right now. You're definitely not watching for this. So, folks, thanks for joining us here on the 2016 Stag Bowl 44 pregame show on D3Football.com. Stay tuned. Are we staying on the same stream here, Dave, or it's a different stream? Switching streams. So go to D3Football.com. You'll see the stream to go to. Refresh your page so you don't see it. And right there, you'll start with the All-American team, the coach interviews, and the broadcast itself coming up here. Again, thank you for joining us. Good night.
Enjoy the game.